Welcome to an all-new episode of SJHL Weekly across the SJHL social media platforms. Thank you so much for joining us today. My name is Jeromy Corrigan. We have a great show lined up for you today. We're going to be joined by defenseman for the Estevan Bruins, Aleksa Babic, during our second block, and also be joined by the head coach and general manager of the Notre Dame Hounds, Brett Pilkington, in the third block. So a jam-packed show, of course, with about a month left in the regular season. Lots to get into, but before we dive into it, we have to give a big shout out to our sponsors: Chevrolet, Capital Auto Mall, Cantera, Seeds, RBC, SaskTel, SGEU, Direct West Tourism Saskatchewan, SGI, Saskatchewan Construction Safety Association, which of course present all of our coaches' conversations, and Young's Equipment. Thank you so much for your support, because once again, without your support, these shows would not be possible. And now it's time to bring in our great co-host, Rory Mcgouran, Jamie Neugebauer. Fellas, how was your weekend?
Awesome weekend. Great hockey across the SJHL landscape, and then the Super Bowl. What a game that was, right? One of an all-time great games in the Super Bowl. But a fantastic weekend overall.
I do feel bad for I feel bad for Nugsy, because he didn't get to watch the Super Bowl because of the Hounds game yesterday.
Well, you know, I was calling a hockey game. I wasn't exactly digging ditches.
That's true.
So, my weekend was really good. Thanks for asking. Called games, I think 5 out of the last 7 days, something like that. So 6 and 8 tomorrow. But Rory and I did a little showcase a couple of years ago. We were calling like 6 games a day. Rory did one, a Pee-wee one, whatever it's called, in Edmonton there, where you had to do 100 games a day.
Oh yeah, it was crazy.
So I can't complain, but I'm tired.
Fair enough. After tomorrow's game, you're going to want to rest your voice.
What an electric start to the show for Nugsy today, isn't
it? It's always electric.
I'm about the real talk.
For sure. So let's dive right into this weekend that was in the Saskatchewan Junior Hockey League. Lots of exciting games across the board. Let's start with Friday. The Estevan Bruins earning a 2-1 victory over the Nipawin Hawks in overtime. The Melfort Mustangs doubling up Yorkton to kick off the first half of their home 4-2. Humboldt with a 3-1 win on the road at the West Central Event Center in Kindersley, and then a big win for Battleford's 7-2 over the Notre Dame Hounds. Then on Saturday, a thriller at Affinity Place between the two teams that met in the final last year. Flin Flon earning a 7-6 win in overtime over the Estevan Bruins. Nipawin shutting out the Weyburn Red Wings 2-0. Humboldt with a big 7-2 win over Kindersley, and then Melfort sweeping their home with Yorkton, winning 2-1 at the Northern Lights Palace. Then finally on Sunday, the Flin Flon Bombers wrapped up 4 games in 5 nights with a 3-1 win over the Notre Dame Hounds. They are now in sole possession of second place in the SJHL standings, and if my math's correct, they have clinched a playoff spot as well. And of course, all of our look backs are presented by Saskatchewan Lotteries. Guys, let's start with the Nipawin Hawks, because at the end of last week's show, I talked to you guys about what you were looking at and looking forward to, and the consensus was the Nipawin Hawks and their big 3-game and 3-night road trip. Rory, what was your thoughts on the Hawks play this weekend?
I think my main takeaway is that when you only allow 4 goals in 3 games, but only pick up 1 win, I think that's something they're going to want a little more out of, out of that road trip. However, saying that, they have picked up the most important win, which was against the Weyburn Red Wings, a shutout that took until 18 minutes and 35 seconds into the third period, a minute and 25 seconds left, where the game's first goal was scored, and then the empty net finisher, of course. But yeah, really tight games against Notre Dame, against Estevan. They didn't pick up the wins. They picked up a single point in one of them, so they got 50% of the points, 3 out of 6. But I think they really tightened up defensively. I think that Tad Kozin and that team's just going to want a little more with only allowing 4 goals. They just didn't score.
For sure.
Yeah, a 970 save percentage for Jackson Fellner.
Yeah.
I mean, what more can you ask from Jackson Fellner? And the game-winning goal against Weyburn, just, another one of those, the old adage, when you put a puck on net, you never know what can happen. And it just kind of, the Xander Stewart's wrist shot just kind of glances off of Buckberger's knee. And for Buckberger, he's been so hot, good things happen, right? When they go in, goals like that seem to be going in, and when they don't, they don't. But the Nipawin Hawks playing the game the right way. They didn't get the points, but I think Tad Kozin and his staff can certainly take positive process from playing playoff-style hockey games at this point in the year.
That's exactly what it was. Playoff-style hockey games, it seemed like, and that's what it needed to be when they're going up against Notre Dame, Estevan, and Weyburn, the 3 closest teams to them in the standings, right? So they were playing that style of hockey, which is great to see for a team that maybe has a little bit of defensive woes going into the playoffs. It's a little bit of something that teams are looking at, and they have given up a bunch of goals sometimes. times, but playoff style hockey was played.
It's pretty incredible when you think about it, though. At the beginning of the season, the one thing we talked about with this Nipawin Hawks team was they can't keep the puck out of the back of the net.
Yeah.
And now they do a 3-game and 3-night road trip down south against teams around them in the standings, and they only allow 4 goals. It's pretty remarkable turnaround.
We said that last week when whoever plays Nipawin in the first round, whoever ends up, it could be Battlefords if Nipawin drops below Weyburn, but if they get a hot goaltender in the first round, look out, because it's going to be dangerous to get past the Hawks.
And you know that the community in Nipawin is going to really show.
Oh, that building is going to be a nightmare
it's
to
so
play
tight.
in. Yes,
It's tight confines. The fans are passionate. The security guards are passionate. I got a lot of security guards, but again, do a great job up in that community, and I'm sure they would love in a perfect world to see Mcgouran-Ratzlaff putting pucks in like he did in the first half of the year. He's just dried up just a touch, but Braxton Buckberger has kind of filled that void a little bit, and they're getting offense from Xander Stewart. So, I think, again, as I said, like the points were not optimal for Nipawin on the road trip, but Tad Cozen's got to be happy with the process.
I still think anytime you go down south, you get half the points. I think you're going to be pretty happy about it. The other team that was down south this week, I should say, is the Flin Flon Bombers. 4 games in 5 nights. They win 3 out of 4. Nugs, you saw them last night. What did you see from the Bombers?
Yeah, I mean, over these 4 games, 9 different Flin Flon Bombers had a goal. Talk about depth. Yep. If Nipawin's like, where can we find a goal? Flin Flon's like, we got plenty. Yesterday was a very mature performance. I actually messaged Mike Reagan after the game. I said, what did you think? I was impressed by Flin Flon, not because they were electric and at their best. Probably they were probably pretty low on gas, 4 and 5. Notre Dame played 3 and 4 too, so it's not the same, but they did have a day off. They were sleeping in their own beds in their own rink, blah blah blah. But the Bombers, just a mature, hard-nosed, physical road performance. Lots of glasses out, lots of pucks deep. Get a power play goal from Cole Dupereau. How put that on a broken record, I guess, this year. But the Flin Flon Bombers just can find a way to score when they need 7-6, and they can lock up a game like they did against Notre Dame. They scored all 3 of their goals in the first period against Notre Dame. That was a real trend on this road trip. They scored 13 goals on this road trip, 10 of them in the first period of games, the Flin Flon Bombers. But they get out to a start, and that's much more economical on your energy if you're not chasing the game. And so the Bombers, had a good job, did a great job of finding that formula to win 3 of 4 on as you mentioned, it's very tough to come down here, and it's tough to finish your 4 and 5 in Wilcox because the ice is so big and it's a different world. And it was Super Bowl Sunday, so I'll be honest, there wasn't a million people there. It wasn't bad actually, the turnout in the end, but it was a very professional performance by Flin Flon, and just like Tad Cozen's happy with process, I think Mike Reagan will be happy with what he saw from his team. Not a perfect performance by any stretch, but able to find a way to win, and that's the difference.
Yeah, I mean, you got to circle the Saturday game for the Flin Flon Bombers and Estevan Bruins, right? 7-6, 7 goals in the first period, 6 of them in the final 6.5 minutes.
Unreal.
It was wild at Affinity Place, which, those 2 teams, after what they built up last year in the playoffs, and we're going to talk to Aleksa Babic coming up in the next segment. I can't wait to ask him about how big is that rivalry in the dressing room for the Estevan Bruins, right? Yeah. But you mentioned Flin Flon and their starts. They're just consistent as well throughout the rest of the game, right? I mean, they are great at first periods and getting out in front and not chasing the game. But first period, 50-32, they outscore their opponents. Second period, 53-46. Third period, 53-38. Their goals come at any time of the game. They're very balanced. They don't take a shift off. And Flin Flon did not give the Notre Dame Hounds really much help this week, did they? No. They lost to Weyburn and then beat Notre Dame. So maybe Mike Reagan Nugsy has a couple of choice words for Mike Reagan. He wasn't happy about him.
That's what that text message was.
I did ask Mike Reagan about his new beard, and it looks great. But I asked him to interview him before the game, and this guy was walking down the hall. I was like, who is this guy coming towards me? And I've never seen Mike Reagan with a beard before, but doesn't matter to him as long as he gets the points, obviously. And it didn't help me out, but that's not his job.
He's been watching the show. He's seen the facial hair from a couple of the hosts here. He's like, let's give it a shot.
There you go.
Give it a shot.
Of course, 3 out of 4 wins for the Flin Flon Bombers. Like we mentioned, they clinched a playoff spot with the win. And right now, they do have sole possession of second place. Of course, everybody's kind of played different amounts of games right now in the Saskatchewan Junior Hockey League. But one of the teams they're battling with for second place in the SJHL standings, Rory, is the Humboldt Broncos. And they picked up 2 wins wins over the Kindersley Clippers this weekend. What'd you see from Humboldt's play?
Games that you need to win when you're a Flin Flon Bomber, when you're a Humboldt Bronco, and
Big
you
time.
see that race between Humboldt, Flin Flon, L'Orange, who does have plenty of games in hand, right? They won't even play until Friday, their 50th game of the season. And Melfort, you got to group Melfort now into there, because
100%,
with the games that they've been playing recently and the games they have in hand, they're around that 60-point plateau as well. But in the standpoint, the Friday night's game was awesome from both teams. Kindersley Clippers, at home, they're a different animal.
Of course.
They're a really, really good team at home, and they were in it all the way. Jared Picklick and Cody Jamin, one of the best goaltending duos I've seen go against each other in a game this season. Picklick, I think, 31 of 32. Jamin, 45 of 48. They were both spectacular. And then Saturday, as the Humboldt Broncos have been doing really all season long, but especially in 2023, the Elgar Peterson Arena has been one of the most difficult places to pick up a victory. They're undefeated since December 14th at home. They haven't lost in 2 months. So they got the balanced scoring again. They got the goaltending from Ben Moe, too. Their power play was 2 for 4. At home, we talk about the Cage, we talk about the Whitney Forum. You got to group the Elgar Peterson Arena the way that crowd is showing up. 1,500 people the last 2 games, and the Broncos are really showing their crowd some excellent hockey recently, especially in 2023.
Yeah, it's a good blend. You know the Humboldt Broncos inside and out, obviously, Rory. But when we had Cage Newens on a couple of weeks ago, I asked him, how have you learned to blend that heavy, grinding playoff style game with the skill that you have, and that is across the board with most of the Humboldt Broncos. You take out a few guys, but you think about like a Cage Newens and an Ethan Zilke, and go down the list. Even Soretsky doesn't mind mixing it up. Even young Van Blaricom.
Oh yeah.
He is a pest. He's a difficult guy to play against. These are hard guys to play against that also have a ton of skill. And that's sort of what we think about when we think about the top of the SJHL. Hard guys to play against that are also skilled. And the Broncos have put a team together that is just that to a T, and that's what Scott Barney wants. And talk about since December, Rory, what was right before December there is just a rash of injuries and illness.
Yeah, 100%.
So a healthy team is always going to be a better team, and it was what we were talking about with Cody Mapes and the Weyburn Red Wings. How did they start flying? Well, their guys were healthy and in the lineup. I think some good luck with health helps big time, and that's what the Broncos have also had lately. Get your best players in the lineup, and that makes a big difference.
I will say, I really think the value they took from last year's playoff series against Flin Flon, those returning players, the Zilkes, the Newens, the Barlogis, they allowed 7 goals and lost the series in 5. Right? Like, those were just hard to play against games, and now they're translating it to that's how they play every game. And I really think that's an invaluable amount of experience for a lot of those players.
Yeah, and that race for second place the rest of the way is going to be...
It's going to be awesome.
It is going to be awesome. That's the best way of putting it. It is going to be awesome.
It continues to be awesome.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, there's really 4 teams competing for second place right now in the SJHL standings, which is awesome. Newsy, let's move on to Notre Dame. You guys had a busy week. 4 games this week, 2 wins, 2 losses. What'd you see from the Hounds?
He's so tired.
Yeah, no, that's why Newsy's so tired this week.
And I called the U17 prep team too.
So yeah, 5 games in 7 days.
I'm
for
not complaining. I have a great job. I love my job, and I'm very grateful for it. Look, the Hounds have scored 2 goals or less in 9 of their last 10 games. That is a tough recipe.
Very tough.
Not just to win games, and they actually have found a way to win a few of those games. They were winning 3 of 4. They won. They beat L'Orange last week, and they beat Nipawin in that tight game with that controversial kind of finish that I think the Nipawin Hawks weren't thrilled about, but I think actually was the right call by the ref. I'll get to that in a second, but if you're putting that much stress on your goaltending, you're putting that much stress on your team to kill penalties, not give up goals, to keep yourself mentally sharp. You're putting a lot of pressure. The margin of error. That's what I'm looking for. It was really small for Notre Dame. If you don't score goals, 9 out of 10 with 2 or less is a long stretch. So you know what? They found a way to grind games there. They found a way to be much, much better defensively than they were earlier in the year. And either that or the season's over. It's kind of period. But the rest of the way here, they've got 3 versus Weyburn and 1 versus Kindersley here in February. You feel like it's getting close to must win time. The Hounds got to win 8 or 9 probably the rest of the way, I guess. But you know what? They've got lots of guts, lots of determination. They just need to find a way to put some pucks in the net. And that's all there is to it, because there are sometimes they're going to mentally shut down, but teams like Humboldt, teams like Flin Flon, Battlefords, they're not perfect teams. Nobody's a perfect team. They have mental lapses, but then they have all sorts of skill to cover some of those mistakes sometimes and get a couple goals, and the Hounds have not been able to find that lately. So that's the struggle. We always knew that these three here this weekend, Friday Battlefords, Sunday Flin Flon, Tuesday Humboldt, was always going to be a brutally tough stretch for the Hounds, and if the Hounds can maybe get a point at a Humboldt, I'm sure they'd be happy with those 3 games, and they were right in it against Battlefords. But yeah, the goaltending has been remarkable. Tucker and Abonnet and Johan Tremblay-Cow have both been awesome. But there's a lot of stress on those guys. The margin of error for those guys is just a little too small right now, and Hounds got to find a way to dig deep and find some offense. That's the bottom line. But they were kind of in all those games really, except for the Battlefords in the third period. But it's not about moral victories right now for Notre Dame. It's about winning or not. That's it.
Now, while the Hounds haven't scored many goals, some of them have definitely been pretty, and that's where we're going to find our Tourism Saskatchewan highlight of the week. Have a look.
Abonnet, so he'll poke at it. 8:10 to go in the second. The Hounds staring 2 straight home games here in which they haven't scored in the first 2 periods. Proby inside out move. He scores! What a goal! Dane Proby! Inside out! Dipsy do, how do you do? What a beauty right there by Proby. And the nicest goal maybe of the year for the Hounds. Is that a highlight of the week in the S?
Yes. You asked if is that the highlight of the week in the SJ? It is.
Yes, it is.
I think did you hear me say last week that to Rob when Rob Hart said, "Oh, that's a highlight reel goal," that if we just say it's a highlight reel goal, we'll probably pick it.
Noted
by Neugebauer.
Nice finish. I did ask
beautiful
Dane,
goal by the way.
Unreal goal. That was a great goal.
I asked Dane after the game if it was the nicest goal he'd ever scored, and he said it was definitely up there. So, he's a humble guy. I'm going to bet it was probably the nicest goal he'd ever scored. I don't know. So, the nicest goal I've ever seen him score, that's for sure. And he put it over the shoulder in a tiny little space on a really hot goaltender in Jackson Fellner, whom the Hounds had a hard time beating up until that point.
Right.
Kudos to Dano. Great goal.
There you go.
Yeah, I mean, Nugsy capped off Notre Dame
100%,
perfectly there. But yeah, they're averaging 2.72 goals a game. That was my kind of one thing.
Right.
They're going to need to find a way to score a little more, but it also shows how valuable, you mentioned it, in Abonnet and Tremblay-Cow have been for the Notre Dame Hounds. They've been spectacular. But yeah, you got to get over that 3-goal plateau if you want to win 9 games throughout the rest of the season. Yeah.
2 more teams we want to touch on quickly just before we go to commercial break, and we'll start with one that you mentioned, Rory, and that's the Melfort Mustangs. They're right in that race for the battle for second place right now. 2 big wins over Yorkton, and they're going to be in a battle with Flin Flon and Humboldt and even L'Orange for that second spot this.
They're a thorn in the side of everyone they play.
They really are.
Is that not Trevor Blevin style hockey? They are just miserable to play against. They smother you in the defensive zone. They punish you in the offensive zone, down deep on your defenseman, right? They'll wear you down through 60 minutes. Big 2 wins over Yorkton, who their hopes of playoff lives are kind of slipping away. Yeah. You mentioned it. What's the magic number now for Yorkton? 5. Yeah, so it's going to be tough for the Terriers to really climb back in it after both losses against Melfort. But yeah, the Mustangs, that's just their style of way to play it. And I think when you talk about Flin Flon and Humboldt, you got to put the Melfort Mustangs in there as well.
Yeah,
because
are
they not? You mentioned it actually prior to the season. You're like, I think you picked them to win the SJHL championship, right? Yeah. When you talk about teams that maybe aren't getting the praise as the Battlefords, the Humboldts, the Flin Flons, L'Orange, Melfort's not talked about enough. Why aren't they capable of knocking off Battlefords? They've been to 2 games in overtime against them.
100%. Every game against Battleford this year has been very close between those 2 teams.
And it's such an enigma to me, and one of the reasons why they maybe don't get the respect. They have a really good roster. They will be a very tough out for anybody in the playoffs. Everybody knows that. But their goal difference at home is plus 46, and on the road it's minus 10.
Yeah.
Have you seen a split like that?
It's the biggest spread in the SJHL right now, is it not?
It's wild. Yeah. It's wild. And they are. You talk about being miserable to play against at the Northern Lights Palace. They can be miserable to play against anywhere. Absolutely. But for whatever reason, they haven't been able to find that same formula on the road and at home. And again, we talked about process with Tad Kozin. We'll talk about Brett Pilkington, the process for the Hounds to try to figure that out. Mike Reagan's team went from a 7-6 game to a 3-1 grinder in Wilcox. They were able to figure that process out. The Melfort Mustangs with a grinding out kind of not pretty win, couple wins against Yorkton. For Trevor Blevins, I'm sure they're happy. They just said, hey, 4 points and we'll take it. Doesn't matter how pretty it is, even if it's against a team that's almost out. But they got to find a way to win a game or two on the road the rest of the way and into the playoffs if they're going to go really far.
100%. When they dictate their way of playing, they're the best team in the SJHL.
Well,
when they cater and kind of get away from their game and play how the other teams are playing, that's why on the road they're losing, right?
Yeah.
When they play their way, they are the toughest team to beat, I think.
Yeah.
One of them, right? Like, that's what happens at home and on the road. I think they drag you into their style of game
100%.
so often, and it's so hard to get past that chess match.
And to your point, Rory, like, and I mentioned this before, like they're either dominant and smothering, or they're susceptible. And the reason that is, to me, is their skilled D-men are just as skilled. Their D-core is as talented and as incredible as anybody's in the league. But if they get puck focused, if they're turning pucks over, if there's odd man rushes the other way, if those guys are not focusing on defending first and playing offense second, then Melfort is in trouble. If they find that balance, then they have their 4-man units, their 5-man units, they're swarming you, they're turning pucks over, they're taking advantage. Obviously, Ben Tkachuk's been amazing all year long when he's been healthy. You know, they're hard to beat. And the last thing I'll say about Melfort is kudos to a young guy still in James Venn, who's had to carry the load and done a really good job lately with it. With
He's
Joel
fantastic.
Favreau out. He's been fantastic. And we talk about it. How often do you see 17, 18-year-olds having to really carry the load night after night in this league, even with incredible defensemen in front of him, Halayan and Tuba and Minnock and Olofsson, and the list goes on. They're still great, but he still has to carry that load. But he's done a great job, so big-time kudos to James Venn. But again, it all comes back to me. If Melfort's going to make a run, find a way to win away from home.
I know we're going to go to Aleksa Babic very soon, but I don't want to go back and recap. But I think sometimes we got to give praises to the people that are around the organizations in the SJHL. And a scary moment between Nipawin and Estevan, where Rylan Lefebvre had his wrist cut by a skate. So the training staff in Estevan and all the EMS workers that was there, the training staff in Nipawin as well. Just a big shout out to them, because we give all the props to the players and the coaches,
100%.
but everyone else that has these machines running so smoothly, and in order to help the safety of Rylan Lefebvre and his cut, that was a great work by them. So I just want to give them a shout out.
Yeah, and hopefully Rylan's going to be okay from that injury.
Which we hear he is.
He should be with that statement that the Nipawin Hawks put out. I was going to ask you guys about the Estevan Bruins, but I think we'll just wait until we are joined by Estevan Bruins defenseman Aleksa Babic after the break. This is SJHL Weekly across the SJHL social media platforms.
Get red and ready with Case IH and Young's equipment. From Case IH combines to MacDon headers, Young's carries all the best in new or pre-owned harvest equipment. With field-ready, industry-leading equipment and highly dedicated service staff, we're here when you need us most. Come experience our award-winning service for yourself and visit youngs.ca to find your nearest Young's equipment location.
For victims of domestic abuse, fleeing may mean leaving everything behind. There is hope. SaskTel provides brand new cell phones so that starting over is possible. Learn more at sastel.com/fresh start.
Sask Energy Network members are the best choice for natural gas solutions for your home or business. With comprehensive services like heating equipment maintenance, appliance installation, and in-store financing, they have natural gas solutions that go beyond heating to bring you the comfort, efficiency, and reliability of natural gas, both indoors and outdoors, all year long. For whole home natural gas solutions, network members burn brighter.
Give me more. Hey. Give me more. You got that thing that I'm looking for. Yeah, give me more.
At Viterra, we believe in the power of connection. Our world-leading agriculture network connects producers and consumers to supply top-quality food ingredients each and every day. Our team takes great pride in working closely with farmers to help feed the world. It's something we've been doing for over 100 years. And as an industry leader, we're dedicated to playing a critical role in meeting the needs of a growing world. Because together, we're stronger and achieve more.
My name is Kyle McIntyre, and I'm the commissioner of the SJHL. We have 12 teams spread out all over this amazing province. 12 teams that hit the road for combined 324 season games. We take hockey players, we make them better. We make them better at hockey and better at life. That's what the SJHL is all about. We have a great league, we have great teams, great ownership, the best fans, the best partners, and the best sponsors.
Welcome back to SJHL Weekly across the SJHL social media platforms. It's Jamie, Rory, Jeremy. Thanks so much for joining us on this another warm day in Saskatchewan. You know what? The snow's almost gone. Knock on wood. Hopefully we get no more. But we're going to head to the video chat line now, where we're pleased to be joined by Estevan Bruins defenseman Aleksa Babic. Aleksa, thanks so much for joining us. Really appreciate it. How's it going today?
It's going good. Thank you for having me on. I really appreciate, obviously, being invited onto the show.
Oh, and we really appreciate you taking some time to chat with us. I'll start with a nice softball for you. 2 games over the weekend at home as you guys return to the ice, 3 out of 4 points. What'd you think of your team's play this weekend?
Yeah, it was a big weekend for us, obviously, playing Nipawin first. They're right behind us in the standings, so being able to get 2 points over them, I know they have some games in hand, so that was big for us. Obviously, a confidence booster going into the playoffs soon. And then, for Flin Flon, obviously it's tough to come back and lose in overtime. They're a really good team, a lot of firepower up front. I think it obviously showed with the 7-6 game. Obviously, we have some firepower too. I think our big guys showed up. But obviously you want to get the 4 out of 4 points. Obviously, with playoffs coming up, we're a team that definitely needs the most points that we can get. But going 3 for 4, I think we're pretty happy with that. Obviously, you obviously want to be the best you can be, and I thought we were pretty close to that coming back. And so it was a big character coming back for us, and I think 3 out of 4 is okay for us.
For sure, yeah. Thank you very much for your time, Aleksa. I really appreciate it. Obviously, a lot of speculation came out around this year around what would happen with you guys when Alex Blanchard left the team to go to the McGill Redmond, or what they're called now, the University of McGill. They were called the Redmond before, but I think they've changed for the better, probably. When he left, just talk about the transition for you. Obviously losing kind of your partner and the guy was obviously really critical for you guys, but it didn't seem like it really lost a beat for you personally as well as the team. Yeah,
obviously, losing Blanche was a pretty big loss for us. Obviously, he was such an effective defenseman on both sides of the puck. I think definitely a guy that was on a scouting report for opposing teams. I was fortunate enough to live with him, so it was obviously tough losing him like that too. But I think the big thing was just he was such a great guy off the ice and such a good leader to the younger guys. Obviously, he had some major junior experience. He used his voice really well in the room. Obviously, led on the ice too, how hard he worked. He did the right things, block shots, get pucks in, out. So it was definitely a loss for us, but I think the big thing is a lot of guys on the back end are getting opportunity to show what they can do too, and I think it's a big thing for them. Obviously, we have 3 younger guys on the back end with our 20-year-olds, so it's good for them, obviously, to get the chance to play, get more ice time to really show what they can do. So, it's obviously tough, I think, more just as far as the kind of guy he was in the room and off the ice towards the younger guys and everybody else, kind of just being a leader. And then, obviously he was just such a good player, but I think it's good to see other guys kind of get the chance to play too right now, and I think they've been doing really well.
There you go, Nugsy. Redbirds.
Okay.
Yeah, was for McGill.
Okay. Good to know.
Aleksa, I got to ask you about this rivalry that's, been brewing over the last year and a half against the Flin Flon Bombers. Obviously a 7-game series in the finals last year, home team winning every one of them. Some tough physical games up in the Whitney Forum this year, and now on Saturday a 7-6 thriller. The two farthest teams geographically away from each other has become one of the best rivalries in the league. How has been playing the Bombers all these times now with that kind of set in stone?
Yeah, obviously we got the Highway 39 rivalry here with Weyburn, but this is quite different for sure. Obviously, kind of just with the whole playoffs that happened last year, as you said, Game 7 doesn't really get better than that. Definitely one of the, or is probably the best experience I've ever had playing, hockey, playing in that series. But it's for sure a rivalry. I don't think they like us too much, and we really like them, and that's kind of how hockey goes, especially in this league. It's every game's a battle. But it's definitely an exciting matchup for sure. I think we've had some good games against them. They beat us, obviously, but I think we're pretty happy with our effort against them. And, the Wit's a tough place to play, but I think so is Affinity Place. So, I think it could possibly be a round 1 matchup. So I guess we'll see how that goes if it happens. And I think we'll be excited, and so will they be if it comes out to that.
Okay, well, that was exactly where I was going to go to. So you did answer it. I was like, are you going to be looking at the schedule and wanting this as a round 1 matchup because of how much you guys are familiar with each other? Or you're like, oh, please, just, not maybe save that for round 2. But you are. It would be exciting for round 1.
Yeah, I think you're excited to play anyone. Obviously, when playoffs comes, it's a different game. Obviously, if we go up to Flin Flon, we'll be excited to play. And then, we have to go to Flin Flon, but they have to come to Estevan too. So it should be exciting. Obviously, we have, I think, 9 or 10 games till playoffs. And, I don't think anything really beats an SJHL playoff. Obviously, compared to other leagues, the environment and atmospheres you play in. So I think we, as long as the whole rest of the league, will be really excited to get going in the playoffs.
Well, me and Nugsy can attest that playoff series. Both arenas were spectacular. Yeah. What an atmosphere at both Affinity Place and the Whitney Forum.
For sure. Aleksa, I wanted to ask you, just a couple of weeks ago, you represent the Estevan Bruins at the SJHL MJHL Showcase. I just want to ask you how that experience was for you and what it was like to not only just represent the Estevan Bruins, but also the SJHL at the event.
Yeah, it was a great thing to be a part of. There's so many good players in the league that, can be chosen to go. Obviously I was really fortunate to be one of them. I had a great time. Obviously, I think the coolest thing was definitely meeting guys around the league. You play against them, so many times. I think 6 Humboldt guys, 6 Flin Flon guys. So it was really cool to kind of get to know them a bit off the ice too. Obviously, you're competing when you play each other, and it's not an easy league to play in. Obviously, guys are finishing hits and stuff. So you get to kind of see the other side of people. But I think it was a really good event for the SJHL and MJHL. I was coached by Barney, obviously the Humboldt coach, just a really good coach. My teammates as well really like players that they had their team, Cam Edlicka and Jack Vangura, really like their coaches as well. So I think it was definitely a great experience to be a part of. I guess to represent the Estevan Bruins and the SJHL, you can't really ask for much more in that kind of an event.
Yeah, for sure. And last one from me then, Aleksa. I got to ask you, couldn't let you go, couldn't let this interview go without shouting out another Ontario guy. Love to see it. Just talk about that transition from Chatham in the GoJ, the Greater Ontario Junior League, which is a great Junior V league. People don't know out here how good it is. You know how good it is down there, the Greater Ontario Junior League. Really, really good. And you played there. Talk about first of all how you ended up in Estevan in the SJ. And second of all, how you found that transition and where you are at this point.
Yeah, the GOAT is a great league. I think it's exactly what it's there for. It's a great development league for younger players. I think they get about 2 NHL draft picks a year. So as you said, it's a really good hockey league. Great for development, and then just kind of a mutual connection that I had through just to kind of come to Estevan through Jason Tatarnik. Obviously, with being able to host last year, it was pretty easy to come. Obviously, to play for him, he's been around the game for so long and he knows so many things. So, he's a coach that you want to play for. You get to listen to him, and he obviously educates you in the game of hockey. And it's a bit different hockey, I'd say, from Ontario to the Saskatchewan. But it's the SJ is such a great league. I think I wouldn't say slept on is a great way to put it, but there's so much skill and talent in the league, and everybody shows up to play every game. There's not many leagues where you're playing in a rink like the Wit or the Malin La Ronge, and it's going to be a battle every night. it's just it's a really great ran league, obviously with coaches. They care so much about the players and obviously advancement and all that. So it's definitely different from what I was used to. Obviously coming to Ontario, you don't get fans like you do in this league, but I couldn't be happier to come to the SJ.
Aleksa, it's now time for Rory's rapid fire. Gonna have a rapid fire series of questions coming at you. Quick answers coming back, all right?
Will do.
All right, so the first one here, of course, the great Tower Pizza in Estevan, the Saragella's there. How many Tower Pizzas have you eaten since your time in Estevan, and what's your favorite one?
I've had it a couple times, not too many to be honest. Windsor, I like Windsor pizza. I'm from Ontario, so Windsor, Ontario's got great pizza. I'd say some of the best in the world. Pete does make a really good pizza at Tower. I'd say about maybe 20 times.
20 times, that's still a good number.
But I'd say 20 is a good amount just through team events and stuff. Pete's real good for that. Obviously, having us out and treating us really well is a great privilege having Estevan. But favorite pizza, I'm not sure. I like just mushrooms, pepperoni, onions, peppers. I'm pretty easy going for pizza.
A little Canadian pizza action there. So Cam Hrdlicka, obviously one of the best goaltenders in the league. Over your last couple of years here in Estevan, how many times have you scored against him in practice?
A lot.
The other way.
Ding, ding.
Yeah.
Love it.
I know how to pick him. I won't say how, but no, he's such a good goalie. He's so competitive in practice, which is huge for us. He doesn't like being scored on. And that's what you like to see in your goalie. And obviously with Jackson Miller, they both push each other to be better, and that's what you need in two goalies. But he's robbed me a couple times for sure. He robs everyone. He's pretty athletic, so you got to shoot the puck pretty well. And I've gotten lucky, and you definitely want to let him hear it if you do, because it just gets him going. You got to get him ready for the weekend.
There you go.
All right, at this very moment, better rivalry, Weyburn or Flin Flon?
Spicy.
We play Weyburn coming up, so I'm gonna have to go with Flin Flon though. Obviously, with the 7-game series we had last year, it can't be beaten. Just what an exciting series to be a part of. As you said, both arena atmospheres were just great. They were so different, but so similar, kind of in a way. Obviously, with the fans and stuff. But I think that Flin Flon one, just playing in it, the atmosphere, obviously. They did their job, what they had to do at home, and we did ours. So it's hard to beat, I'd say. But I'm gonna have to go with Flin Flon. But Weyburn's a tough opponent, and they're gonna come out every game, especially with the Highway 39 rivalry. We're playing for a trophy, so it's pretty close, but just Flin Flon.
And the final one for me is Jason Tatarnic, the head coach of the Estevan Bruins, fan of the show. We all love him. Which teammate gets under his skin the most?
It's hard. He gives it back, but he loves it. You got to get under his skin. He likes it. I think he likes a little fire in guys. Maybe Tim Tyconic. He's pretty good at those. Obviously, he's a funny kid and stuff. But I think Tarch just likes when the guys get fired up. I think it's obviously with the game of hockey nowadays, you can't really be pretty mellow out there. You got to be pretty intense, and I think he does a good job of that in practice. Obviously, getting guys going, because when game time comes, you got to be ready to play, because you're gonna get finished on hits and stuff. So I think maybe Tim's up there, but I think Tarch loves it.
And I know.
Yeah.
I know the right answer was, of course, Nugsy, because the amount I hear from Tatarnic about Nugsy getting under his skin is, it might be more than Tim.
So, Tarch loves me. I don't know what you're talking about. A quick one, Aleksa. I just want one word answer here, okay? Your Windsor, people don't know, it's right across the river from Detroit. So are you a Detroit sports fan or are you a Toronto sports fan? You can't pick any other city. You have to pick one of those two.
Going with Detroit. I'd have to say I'm going with Detroit. I'm a Penguins fan, so not the Wings, but I'd say Lions and Tigers, and sometimes the Pistons. But I'd say, I'd say Detroit. I know there's a lot of Toronto fans back home, but it's kind of tough here, and every year is our year. So I'm going to have to go with Detroit.
Well, Aleksa, thanks so much for taking some time to join us today. We really appreciate this. Congratulations on a great season so far, and best of luck the rest of the way and into the playoffs.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you for having me on as well.
That is defenseman for the Estevan Bruins, Aleksa Babic. Outstanding interview. And after the break, we'll have another outstanding interview as we're joined by head coach and general manager of the Notre Dame Hounds, Brett Pilkington. This is SJHL Weekly across the SJHL social media platforms.
Original 16. Celebrate things done well.
Increase your home comfort with high-efficiency natural gas equipment. Sask Energy offers rebates so you can lower your energy use and save money. For a list of rebates, contact a participating network member or visit saskenergy.com.
When you buy a lottery ticket in Saskatchewan, your money really goes a long way. More than 12,000 sport, culture, and recreation groups receive funding from Sask Lotteries every year. Everyone wins.
You wouldn't take the ice without protective wear. So why would you take to the job site that way? The SCSA is proud to partner with the SJHL.
Saskatchewan, you know SaskTel, because we're everywhere, keeping you connected to your family and friends, to your history and culture, to those traditions that make us who we are. SaskTel cares, always has, always will, because we're dedicated to our home.
Welcome back to SJHL Weekly across the SJHL social media platforms. Thank you so much for joining us. It's Jamie, Rory, and Jeromy on another great episode of SJHL Weekly, and we're going to head back to the video chat line where we're pleased to be joined by head coach and general manager of the Notre Dame Hounds, Brett Pilkington, and all of our coaches' conversations are presented by Saskatchewan Construction Safety Association. Brett, thanks so much for taking the time to join us today. How's it going?
Yeah, thanks for having me, and it's going great. Sun's out, so can't complain.
No, you definitely can't complain when it's this warm in Saskatchewan in February, for sure. Brett, I'll start with a nice, easy one for you. A tough 3-1 loss to the Flin Flon Bombers last night. What did you see from your team?
Well, we got off to a slow start in the first period there, and they got 3 on us. And, after that first period, we battled pretty hard to play them even for the last 40. But, again, you got to play 60 minutes this time of year and in the SJ all the time. So we're still learning as a young team. It's a hill we got to climb.
Yeah, for sure, Brett. I got to ask you, how's the stress level given the fact that it seems like every game is a must-win, do or die to try to catch those Weyburn Red Wings, get into the playoffs? Is it a fun thing for you to coach a team that's got to win now, or is it more stressful? Kind of how are you managing that with you and with your very young team?
Well, Nuja, the stressful part for me is practice because that's the coach's time. And, when it comes to game day, that's on the players. It's time for them to show what they're made of and play. So to answer your question, I'm more stressed today than, potentially tomorrow when we have game day.
Hey, Brett, thanks for joining us. I mean, Nugsy talked about that playoff race. Can you see the kind of excitement throughout practice and throughout the game with the team that's trying to get back, into the playoff spot, knowing that each game and each 2 points mean that much at this time of the season?
Yeah, the practices right now, and you got some young guys, and the compete level's very high, and that's part of the excitement piece is that players are taking their games to the next level, and and it gives them one last audition to show what they're made of for the 20-year-olds, and and the young guys too for jobs next year, right, as well in the regular season here.
Brett, I wanted to ask you just, Nugsy was talking about it a little bit earlier, but how well both of your goaltenders have played, especially the last couple of weeks. Maybe just speak to how good it is to have, obviously, two great goaltenders in between the pipes playing this well right now.
Yeah, we've had some good goaltending here as of late, and they're both rookies to the junior hockey game there, and you always expect a little bit of slow start, and you hope that they grow from the start towards this time of year, and we've seen that out of both of them, so we're happy with their development.
Yeah, for sure, Brett. I obviously you and I have talked about this a lot, but very interesting to watch the development of Will Dawson the last 2 years, and obviously we saw him kind of in Kevin Anderson's hip pocket last year a lot. We're trying to learn from him. Just how impressed are you with his development both as a leader off the ice and a player on the ice to the point where he's got a D1 and earned it?
Well, you look at Will, like you said, he clinged on to Kevin Anderson last year here at Notre Dame and learned what it takes to be, we talk about being a professional every day, and that's not just on the ice, but that's off the ice. That's eating at the right time, getting the right fuel in your body, getting in the gym, getting in the ice bath, and really developing into that professional mindset as an athlete. And, he's rolled right into this year, and, he's getting rewarded for it.
Hey, Brett, we were kind of talking about it in the first segment that the Notre Dame Hounds, they're averaging 2.72 goals per game. Your goaltending has been phenomenal. But over the stretch, you're the coach, you know that you're going to need to score more than 2 goals in most of the games to win most of them. What would you kind of like to see tweaked or maybe addressed in order to generate a little more goal scoring to help support the goaltending that you're getting?
Well, when you look at goals, right, it's a battle at home plate there, and, and the willingness to get there is the biggest battle, right? So, we stress day in and day out that not only does the puck got to get there, but bodies. And once you're in there, you got to bring that next level, compete, and win some of those stick battles and put a few home. And, like I said, we've been stressing to get better in that area offensively. And, again, time will tell how it goes.
Yeah, for sure. Brett, I also got to ask, I don't know how many people know, but the Canada Winter Games about to kick off in Prince Edward Island, and you're going to help represent Team Saskatchewan. I know it's a bit strange maybe to shift gears at this point in the season, but what's it like to deal with Western Hockey League first round picks, and a lot of people have a lot of these guys that you're coaching and going to be coaching against to be soon to be NHL draft prospects. How exciting is that to represent the province and to be around that level of a player and a human being?
Yeah, it's an extreme honor for me to represent the province of Saskatchewan on this stage. As a coach, obviously don't get to play, but to put the green on and represent as a coach is amazing. And seeing some of these top talented kids in Saskatchewan and what they do day in and day out is just phenomenal as a 15-year-old. And again, we within our program here and in Team SAS, we talk about being a professional each and every day, and what goes into that is the right habits and accountability and the willingness to love the game of hockey. And these 15-year-olds I'll be coaching at the Canada Games probably got a little bit more than the average guy, and that's what separates them.
And if you did get to play, you'd be great, Brett.
I'd probably be wearing the blue of Alberta if I was playing.
Fair enough. He's a Calgary guy. It's fair.
All right, Brett, it's actually the inaugural edition of Rory's Rapid Fire with a head coach coming up. So I got like 4 or 5 really quick questions, just quick answers coming back. You ready?
Yep.
All right. Obviously, Bowling Green alumni. Do you know word for word the Bowling Green fight song, and can you recite some for us?
I don't remember the whole thing, but it's Ziggy Zumba, 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 Ziggy Zumba, Zumba, hey. That's about all I get, Roar. That's all I get today.
That was great.
That's all I needed. That's
Clip it.
You guys are on a road trip. Everyone's on the bus. Who's the last player that everyone's waiting for before you guys can go home?
I would probably be Jared Sitch. He's he's out there. He he takes his time after the games and takes care of himself, and he makes sure everybody's on the bus before he gets on.
All right, and on the reverse side, who's the first one to show up for a home game where you're here this early? Like, what are you doing here?
I think that would have to be, and I don't watch this too closely, but I think it would be one of those guys that play between the pipes, the goalies, because, they got their own special routines, and I think that might be part of it.
I asked Aleksa Babic before which teammate maybe gets under Jason Tatarnik's skin the most. Who's the guy that maybe you're always having to keep in check on practice?
Oh, we got a few of those guys, but and it's not getting under my skin. It's more joking around with me, and it's the guys I've had for over a year. I'd put them all in a group, and it's a little bit of the fun camaraderie of the group, and just having fun out there.
We kind of joke with Nugsy here that he can't get through a show without mentioning Jared Sitch. How many times a day does he talk about Jared Sitch with you?
We got to go at least 30 plus. So.
And besides Nugsy, who's the biggest character on the team?
Yeah, biggest character on our team's got to be the goalie, Tucker and Adam. That guy's going to be a comedian one day for sure.
I do love the hard-hitting questions with Tucker and Abinay and Jamie's segment that he puts on social media. All right, that's all I got for you. Thanks, Brett.
It's an awesome segment, Jamie, for sure. Brett, thank you so much for your time. We really appreciate it. Best of luck down the stretch with the Hounds and your playoff push, and best of luck at the Canada Winter Games.
Thanks for having me, guys, and thank you.
That is head coach and general manager of the Notre Dame Hounds, Brett Pilkington. Great chat with Brett. And it doesn't surprise me that between Tucker and Jamie, they have a segment. They have a segment together. They're the two troublemakers on the
funny.
Hounds.
If you haven't seen it, check it out.
Outstanding.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, hey, Tucker's a real character. I was thinking today, is there any other kid that I can think of in my career that's played on a team that I've worked for that's as much of a character as Tucker? And I had a hard time, but he's a very smart kid underneath it all. He's really, really mature and smart, and really, really a treat to have. So he's a great balance.
I'm not surprised that it's a goalie too, right?
Yeah, yeah. People say, "Oh, goalies are crazy," and maybe they are. But Tucker's a goof, and Johan is just very, very focused, like the classic kind of like Ramsey that you had there, just very focused and has his routines. And Tucker's joking and laughing, and then he stops 50 shots. So whatever works, right?
Yeah, goalies aren't superstitious. They're a little stitious. Just a little stitious. Yeah. All right, let's get into players of the week. You know what? I'll say this. When it comes to players of the week this week compared to past weeks, I think this is the week that I think our group chat was definitely trying. We were all over the map this week when it comes to players of the week. But that just speaks to how many good players had good weeks this week in the Saskatchewan.
And some of them were also rookies. We're like, well, is he MVP? Is he rookie? Right? Like it was a great week for a lot of players, like you mentioned.
Because like you said too, is like some players can qualify for multiple awards. Yeah. So it gets tricky. You should, if people saw our group chat. Yeah. Anyways, let's start with SGU MVP. And this one comes, Rory, from the Humboldt Broncos, Alex Zaretsky, 2 goals, 2 assists. And while he might not have the most points this week in the SJHL, he has been outstanding since the turn of the calendar for the Humboldt Broncos.
Yeah, 2 games played this week and 4 points. So the most points per game in the SJHL this week. But it hasn't just been this week. He has 10 goals in his last 10 games. He has 14 goals in his last 15 games. He's just been scoring at will, 4th in the league in power play goals right now. That's what you kind of expected him to do. And maybe it was a slower start for him at the start of the year. But since then, he's had a 6-game goal streak. Then it ended. Started another 6-game goal streak. Then it ended. Now he's on a 3-game goal streak. So since December 15th, maybe, he's been the hottest goaltender alongside Kean Bell and Cole Dupro in the SJHL.
For sure. Moving on to SaskTel goalie of the week. And I mean, we were just talking about him. but Tucker and Abene of the Notre Dame Hounds. I mean, Nugsy, it was a busy week for the Hounds. Tucker got into 3 games for Notre Dame, and he was a big reason why they won 2 of those games.
Yeah, he was awesome. The Hounds won 2-1 games against L'Orange and Nipawin, and there's an easy way. It's pretty simple to say that he stole the Nipawin game. He was really, really good. So got to give him a lot of credit for that. A .951 save percentage.
Numbers.
As you see there, the numbers up on the screen. He's a guy that can make all the saves. He's probably the guy who's in the best shape on the junior Hounds too. Maybe him and Jared Sitch 1A 1B, but he's a tank and did a great job again this week, so kudos to him.
Yeah, 102 saves in 3 games. Busy for sure. Moving on, Direct West Rookie of the Week, Rory, Alexi Silvestri of the Flin Flon Bombers, 2 goals, 4 assists, and he had 2 goals and 2 assists in that wild Estevan game at Affinity Place.
Yeah, he's been fantastic, hasn't he, right? And another player that Mike Reagan has just pried from out of nowhere, and he's on the top 6 lines, right, with, the likes of Tremblay and Mercier. And this guy, Silvestri, is just a handful to handle down low. He's got the size, puck-protecting ability. He can shoot the puck. He's got great vision. And as you mentioned there, 4 points there, or probably 4 assists in 4 games played, along with 2 goals. So 6 points in 4 games for Silvestri. And the Flin Flon Bombers were a busy team this week. Now, with the loss of Mercier with an injury, they're going to depend on him a lot more, and you've seen him most recently. How good does he look?
Yeah, he's put right in on the top line there, right? I mean, they've got 2 top lines, let's be honest, but he hasn't missed a beat. Power forward, good in those small Sherwood barns for sure, and can skate too. Didn't look bad in Wilcox ice either. So he's kind of got the full package as a young kid, and he's going to be another force in the playoffs for Flin Flon.
Oh yeah.
Like they needed another one.
And the one thing I was, just before we move on to Super U Defenseman of the Week, the one thing I was really surprised about, this is his first time as Direct West Rookie of the Week. And and he has had an amazing season so far.
He's going to be in contention for maybe Rookie of the Year.
100%. And it's his first time being honored. For sure. And finally, Nugsy, we move on to Super U Defenseman of the Week. We're going to stick with the Flin Flon Bombers and Corey King, 4 assists this week. And you were saying in our group chat, the stats, obviously he had 4 points in 4 games, but he was outstanding defensively yesterday against the Hounds.
Yeah, defense and making the right first pass and being hard to play against are really his calling card. He does have that major junior experience with Moose Jaw in Seattle in the Western Hockey League. But, this Flin Flon D-core is a little bit different than last year. They don't have an Xavier Lapointe. They don't have a Ryland Thiessen, so they're not as explosive offensively. But what they have instead are the Corey Kings and the Alex von Spreckens of this world that are just so hard to play against, manage the puck so well. And, Corey's job in a lot of ways is to give the pucks to Cole Dupereau, to Jaden Mercier, to Zach Kane, and let them put the pucks in the net and be hard to play against. So, that the way that Mike Reagan has built his team is hard and heavy and not fun to play against, and Corey King's a part of that.
So in recap, Players of the Week this week, SGU MVP goes to Alex Soretsky of the Humboldt Broncos, 2 goals, 2 assists. SaskTel Goalie of the Week, Tucker Inabade of the Notre Dame Hounds, a 2-1 record, a 1.68 goals against average. Direct West Rookie of the Week, Alexi Silvestri of the Flin Flon Bombers, 2 goals, 4 assists in 4 games played. And Super U Defenseman of the Week, Corey King of the Flin Flon Bombers, 4 assists. And before we get into this week, we're a month away from the playoffs, which is really exciting in the Saskatchewan Junior Hockey League. But guys, tomorrow's Valentine's Day.
It is, yes.
Have you gotten gifts for your significant others?
I did. I bought a ticket to the SJHL raffle.
Hit it, guys! Play the graphic. Perfect.
Hopefully we win that one. That'll be a nice. You get you and your significant other in the passenger seat to go for some cruises after Valentine's Day when the weather's getting nice and outside. How can you get wrong?
Enjoy a nice little Saskatchewan sunset. Riding around in the field. I mean, there you go. Tickets are on sale right now, sjhlraffle.ca until April 23rd. 1 for $25, 3 for $60, 10 for $100. The draw date, April 27th, live on SJHL Insider. Only 5,000 tickets available, so get your tickets now, sjhlraffle.ca. Valentine's Day, birthday, St. Patrick's Day, Easter, whatever holiday you need to celebrate, here's your gift. sjhlraffle.ca.
And you know what? All these teams, right, do an amazing job with their marketing, with their fundraising. The SJHL put it on this raffle, which, of course, will support all 12 teams. 1,000%. And, we're here to support the 12 teams, too. So if any of the teams out there have 50-50, like large raffles or something, let us know. We'll give you a shout-out on the show and pump that number out there. So, we can, all help each other around the league, and that's what it's all about.
Bingo. All right, let's move on. This is going to be a great week in the Saskatchewan Junior Hockey League, and the action kicks off tomorrow night. 3 games on the schedule, and it starts in Nipawin, a big one for the Nipawin Hawks as they play host to the Kindersley Clippers. The Weyburn Red Wings will visit the Yorkton Terriers, and, of course, the Notre Dame Hounds will play host to the Humboldt Broncos. And then on Wednesday, the Melville Millionaires will visit the Estevan Bruins, and the Melfort Mustangs will play host to the Kindersley Clippers. That Tuesday, I didn't realize before we showed the graphic, but that Tuesday really involves a lot of those teams. 7, 8, 9, 10 right now. That's going to be a great night of hockey, but as always, I'll ask you guys, I'll start with Jamie this time. What are you looking forward to this week in the SJ, and what are you keeping your eye on for?
Well, I'm not going to bury the lead. The main event this weekend, ladies and gentlemen, is in the Whitney Forum. Yes. The Battle for the North Stars at the Flin Flon Bombers. The Battle for the North Stars have nothing to play for, but they don't ever seem to play that way. They always show up and put in a great performance, and I think it's going to be a big measuring stick for both teams, regardless of where they are in the standings. For Flin Flon, it means the world, obviously, in the Whitney Forum. And could that be the SJHL Finals? Very well could be. Obviously, there's lots of teams involved, but that could be it for sure. So those 2 games up there are my pick to watch for sure. But just quickly, Melfort and Kindersley has always been a bugaboo this year for Melfort. Melfort's really had a hard time against Kindersley, so don't count that one out.
Yeah, and let's show up the standings right now in the SJHL while we talk about the races down the stretch are going to be tight. I mean, we talked about 2 through 5. I mean, they're only separated by 6 points, and then even the interesting one, I think, too, is Estevan, because with a couple of wins this week per se, they could climb back up into that battle for in between 2 and 5. But a couple losses, they could drop down with Nipawin and Weyburn. It's going to make the stretch run very, very interesting. Rory, for you, you look at this week, what stands out?
Well, love is in the air on Valentine's Day.
That's what they say.
Is it not? And we'll be reigniting a rivalry between Humboldt and Notre Dame. I get to spend Valentine's Day with my good pal Neugsy here. And it's
there. I was going to say, that's the wrong camera, guys. I am not Neugsy.
But it's always fun when the Broncos and the Hounds come together. That's obviously the next one coming up tomorrow, which I'm looking forward to. However, I'm going to stick with the Notre Dame Hounds because you just saw the standings. They play Weyburn twice coming up very soon, once on Friday and then once on Monday, on Family Day. So, Notre Dame and Weyburn, you saw the standings. That's the other one I'm looking forward to. If Notre Dame can pick up a clean 4 points, now you got a race for 8 coming up here. So those are it. And then the Family Day game, because we're not going to have a show next Monday, I believe, a holiday, right? So we'll be back on Tuesday. So on Family Day, it's always a fun one between the Broncos and the Kindersley Clippers. It's free admission at the Elgar Peterson Arena for all Bronco fans to attend a matinee holiday game where last year they had like 1,800 people there. So it's just a great event. Kindersley has their school day event where they welcome in all the schools. Humboldt is always the opponent for that. They had like 1,500 kids there. That was awesome. And then Kindersley comes for Humboldt for the Family Day game. So those are the 2 games that are always really nice to watch on the schedule.
And do you know what? To add to that, you reminded me, I think this weekend up in Flin Flon is hockey night in the north.
That's right.
And I think it's a Saturday game. It's free admission.
I got a message about that from Matt Morrison up in Flin Flon, and he was mentioning that it's going to be bananas.
It'll be crazy
up there in Flin Flon. And it's going to be Battleford's in town too. It's going to be a great matchup. Interesting to see how those two teams come out. They have a week off to prepare too, so it'll be fascinating. And you've also buried it a little bit there, Rory. Kindersley's going to be playing that Humboldt team, but Humboldt has 2 against the Estevan Bruins this weekend coming up, so that'll be a fascinating
There's a
lot of great hockey.
So three big matchups for Humboldt there on the weekend as well.
I mean, it's always a great week in the Saskatchewan, especially this year. There's so much parity this year in the SJHL. I mean, There's so many good games across the board. Before we go, let's give a big thanks to our sponsors once again: Chevrolet, Capital Auto Mall, Cantera Seeds, RBC, SaskTel, SGU, Direct West, Tourism Saskatchewan, SGI, Saskatchewan Construction Safety Association, which present each and every one of our Coaches Conversation, and Young's Equipment. Thank you so much for your support, because again, without your support, this show would not be possible. Now, to stay up to date in the SJHL, be sure to follow us across all of our social media platforms. Like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok. Also subscribe to our YouTube channel. Nugsy, what are you laughing at over there?
Nothing.
Do you want to take a turn and rattle him off?
He was he might have been drifting.
Oh no, Nugsy's falling asleep.
Hey, I got 2 young kids. That's my excuse.
Fair enough. I'm just trying to pay the bills.
I'm
Nugsy.
playing the kids' card. No, I love it. You do a great job of reading.
Sorry, putting you to sleep. Like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. We're on the road to 1,000 subscribers on TikTok or on YouTube. So be sure to follow us there. It's going to be a great week of hockey across the SJHL. If you can't make it out to your local rink, you can catch all the action on a Hockey TV subscription now, $29.99. Thank you so much for joining us. For Jamie, Rory, my name's Jeremy, and this has been another great episode of SJHL Weekly across the SJHL social media platforms.